Yes, indeed, everyone. It's Donovan and Dino on a Thursday night. We are, of course, presented by our friends at Master Pizza. Remember Master Pizza? All you got to do, just like this, download the Master Pizza app. Vince has done it. Yeah, it's simple as easy. You start earning pizza points and great benefits by doing so. Remember, that's Master Pizza. Taste above all. I'm DeNatale. That's Vince Fratiani. He is the producer of The Front Row, which the formerly Donovan Live, down the front row. Same great show.
So we're going to do this.
Same great producer.
I've never been on Donovan and Dino before.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
It's like, I think when Mike Polk did 3 on 3 last week, he said he had never been on Front Row before. He'd only done Donovan Live.
Right. It's different. Yeah. You've never. If it may look like the same show, sound like the same show. It's not the same show.
It's a whole new show.
It's a whole new show.
It's all the stuff you love and less of the stuff you don't.
That's right. Jimmy is doing Sports Time Ohio tonight, the Red Zone. So
2 hours.
Yeah, 2-hour show. Get ready to talk sports with Jimmy and Tony Grossi and Doug Deacon in a little bit. So for our benefit, we'll get to the Browns in a second. I want to talk to Vince about the Browns and the 49ers. But an interesting day around town and an interesting Front Row show tonight that I wanted to get to. Movies seem to be a big topic of the day around Cleveland and around our shows. First and foremost, we had kind of all lamented the fact that Joe and Anthony Russo, the Cleveland natives, and the guys who behind the 2 great Avengers movies, including the #1 movie all time in the box office, they've got an upcoming movie that they set in Cleveland that they wanted to shoot in Cleveland called Cherry.
Yep.
We had thought that about a month or so ago that wasn't going to be able to happen, but apparently today we found out there will be another movie shooting in Cleveland besides the one that Liam Neeson's doing right now.
Yes, and that was the thing we've been covering on Donovan Live for months leading up to that, was the fight to keep the Ohio Motion Picture tax credit intact. And basically, once the state decided to protect that and keep it in the state budget, that opened the doors for film projects to come back in. And so now the Russo brothers are able to, take advantage of that and do this. And the movie, it looks like it's going to be very different from what we're used to. That's for sure. It's a very dark, very gritty movie. I don't know if you heard Sarah talking about it at 7, but it's about an Iraq veteran who comes home from the war with PTSD. He develops an opiate addiction. This is Tom Holland, the kid who plays Spider-Man. Lovable Spider-Man with an opiate addiction. He starts robbing banks to feed his habit, to get the money for his addiction. So it's going to take place here in Cleveland.
Yes.
Which, it's a cross of the fictional world and the storytelling and some stuff that's real life issues that happens in this city every day.
And I can remember when I think it was Anthony Russo had been in town for the Blu-ray launch of Avengers Endgame, and he talked to Will Ewick. Remember that name because we got another thing with Will coming up. But I remember. He was so devastated that they couldn't shoot the movie here because it's a set in Cleveland. They're from the area. Everything about it was Cleveland. It was so important, and he was legitimately upset that it wasn't going to happen. But thankfully, they've been able to work with our friends here at the Film Commission and the state of Ohio, and it's going to happen. That's great. It's great for jobs. It's great for the economy.
They had alluded to wanting to bring another project to Cleveland. I interviewed them. They were doing a press junket at the Intercontinental Hotel downtown when Infinity War came out, the first of the 2 of these big Avengers movies, and they had to be kind of tight-lipped about it because they knew that they had something cooking, but they couldn't bring the Avengers here because the tax credit, there's only so much of that money in a year to go around, and being able to get Disney to sign off on stuff, but you could tell from talking to them, they really wanted to bring another production here.
Yeah.
They love this city. They feel like the hard work and the grit that they learned coming up in this town, because they grew up in Collinwood, right?
And they made a film. I think one of their first films they made was Welcome to Collinwood.
Right.
Really an independent, low-budget movie that was fun. If you've never seen it, see it. And then it evolved to making the Captain America Winter Soldier movie here. And now here it comes again.
Right.
I think it's great. Now
it's a good story.
It's a great story. So that happens, and then if you watch The Front Row tonight, Will Ewick had a great story. There's a documentary that, again, local. We love telling local stories here on 3 News, and it involves an iconic an iconic actress, an iconic character, and also kind of involves NASA too. I mean, a lot of parts to the story.
Yes. So Nichelle Nichols, who
Lieutenant Uhura
of
Love
Star
Uhura.
Trek fame,
Love Uhura.
the classic Star Trek, she has been a prolific supporter of women and minorities getting involved in the space program. She parlayed her fame and went out there and she made a name for herself. And she helped to get people involved in the space program that normally wouldn't have done so. And it was a passion cause for her to use her kind of space chops from being on the show.
Yes.
And you know, so that's a really cool story. But the person who's telling the story, because I had heard about this a while back, because I'm kind of a geek, so I know like a lot of the nerd news. I knew they were doing a documentary about her because she's not getting any younger,
Right.
and she considered quitting Star Trek. And Dr. Martin Luther King himself told her, "Don't quit the show. You're too important."
Right.
It's what it means.
Such a groundbreaking actress and a groundbreaking character,
And at a time
in
where
such an
people would-
amazing time.
Right.
You know, we're African American and African American women were not getting opportunity to be important parts of television shows and movies, for that matter. And she really kind of broke the mold.
Right. So she has a very important story to tell. And to tell that story is a kid from Valley Forge. And
A patriot from Valley Forge.
A Valley Forge patriot. And he is showing his documentary at the Chagrin Film Festival.
Yep. Always
Right
a big
here in
thing.
town. And so Will Ewick decided to take a trip down memory lane, down through the halls of Valley Forge with the filmmaker.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. We call the show Front Row because we want to put you in the front row to politics and to arts and entertainment and to sports and to all the things that really get us amped up and make us feel passionate. And we got a front row to the roots where this guy came from and kind of how his mind works and why he's so passionate about these projects. It's a very cool story.
Yeah, we'll have the whole thing up on WKYC.com as well coming up. And if you missed it on the front row, get a chance to go back and watch it and enjoy it. That's been something, since you've been involved with the show, there's been an emphasis on science, whether it's been bringing somebody in from the science center, the Great Lakes Science Center, Betsy's Girls in STEM, certainly, no doubt about it. Anything with NASA. That's an important part of Cleveland and telling the stories of Northeast Ohio because of NASA Glen and because even in Sandusky there's NASA Center out there.
The
Plumbrook, which are trying to rename it after Neil Armstrong. There are stories, science, exploration, technology. I mean, I always think of, when Jay Reynolds comes down and talks to us, those are fun stories also to tell, I've noticed.
To me, the stories of innovation and of discovery are very much the stories of Northeast Ohio. They're part of the fabric of what makes our region so cool. And, anytime we can try to shine a light on that stuff and maybe inspire the next generation, tomorrow's people who are going to be the people we do stories on, in 20 years from now when they're adults and they're creating amazing things. So it's a little bit of a passion project for sure.
Absolutely. Now, while I have you up here, got to talk Browns.
Okay.
Got to talk Browns. Monday night's coming up here, and Jimmy will be getting on the plane this weekend, flying to San Francisco. There's always something different about having to play in prime time, whether it's Sunday night or Monday night. You're also playing on the West Coast. You're also coming off of an emotionally high win against the Ravens.
After an emotionally high loss.
After going to your lowest low with the Rams, because everybody felt like, boy, that was a game we let slip away. Then you come back and you play so well against the Ravens. I have no idea what to expect Monday night in San Francisco. But I would say this. I think the Browns are a good matchup for the 49ers. Even though San Francisco's had a bye week and everything, I do think the Browns this is not a bad time for them to be facing, as Freddie Kitchens called, multiple adversities, which you have to do in this situation.
Absolutely. The teams are somewhat similar in the way that they have some defensive playmakers. They both do on both teams.
Yeah, Garrett, Bosa.
They also both run the ball incredibly well. Now, for us, it's Nick Chubb, and to a lesser extent, Dontrell Hilliard, who's done a very good job. But then you look at the 49ers, and that offensive scheme, that zone blocking scheme that Kyle Shanahan runs, every running back is a playmaker. Raheem Mostert. Do you remember him, the kick returner?
Sure.
He put up 80 yards and 2 touchdowns one week.
I mean,
the guy's insane.
Isaiah Crowell should give a portion of his contract to Kyle Shanahan.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, we all remember 2014, and the Browns, I mean, they had they started that year with a three-headed attack. They had, I think it was Ben Tate, they had the rookie, I can't remember.
I remember
they had Ben Tate, they had Crowell, and they had another back, and nobody could stop with that. When you had Joe Thomas and Alex Mack as your blockers, nobody could stop that zone read. And just when Mack got hurt, it really kind of spiraled things down a little bit. But then you get a quarterback like Garoppolo, who, when he's healthy, I think he can be a very good quarterback. I mean, I can remember doing the show with Jimmy at the trade deadline when, the 49ers got Garoppolo from the Patriots, and we were all, disappointed. At times, Vince, I think he can be a really good quarterback and be somebody that is a threat. But then there are times you sit there and you scratch your head and you go, really? This guy is...
Is he the guy?
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I'm not sure. I'm not, and I don't know which quarterback the Browns are going to see Monday.
Well, it's going to be tough because he is going to be under duress nonstop. We've seen that every single week. This Browns defensive line gets in quarterbacks' faces, even against really good offensive lines.
And if they don't, Steve Wilkes likes to blitz like Demarius Randall or somebody in the secondary. He'll vary a blitz if he feels like he needs to.
But honestly, I don't know that they're going to have to rely on Garoppolo as much. If that running game gets going, they're not going to have to worry about that. And they have some good receiving options too. Some of the wide receivers, they're lesser known names, but they have George Kittle, the tight end, who takes pressure off of guys. And I think they're going to have some. And the Browns' defensive backs are still not healthy.
Yes, I mean they may get Burnett back. As far as Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward,
it kind of feels like that defense has been on borrowed time.
Yeah, I know, and that was one thing. I thought the Ravens were able to run the football against the Browns last week. Yeah, especially whether it was Jackson or if it was Ingram or whoever.
And gash plays, like big chunks of yardage.
Right, and then the Browns were like playing almost like a bend but don't break type of a defense. Right. So you can run against them, but the Browns are going to have to figure out, okay, at what point do you stop bending and you go in and you're going to have to take them out. But I also think I'm going to be curious on the offensive side. You're going to hopefully get Higgins back. We know for sure the Browns will have Callaway back. Landry's a question mark because of the concussion. A long flight, right? I mean, my gut says probably he won't play.
I don't think so.
But I mean,
it's a long week.
Yeah, it's a long weekend. I mean, don't quote me on that. It's just my, having had a concussion, I can tell you this year what it's like. But I'm curious to see Beckham, Callaway, and Higgins, and Mayfield almost very close to having all of his wide receiver weapons. Obviously, you don't have David Njoku, but a lot of your weapons are starting to come back. And I'm curious to see how teams are going to continue to try to double down on Beckham like Baltimore wanted to do last week. Can Mayfield make that second read to Ricky Seals-Jones or the other read to Ratley? Can he keep doing that and make those high percentage plays?
When Higgins is in the lineup, Baker Mayfield's a different quarterback.
Isn't he? I agree with that.
He's so much more confident and comfortable because he knows he can go through read 1, read 2, read 3, and he knows Higgins will always be there if he needs a guy. He seems afraid of the check down. Does that seem like a thing to you?
I thought so. Yeah.
I'll see him, rolling out to the right, and Chubb is wide open in the flat on the left.
Right.
And if he would have just stayed in the pocket and just dumped it off, it would have been a completion instead of that half sack out of bounds thing that he does.
He did better with that against Baltimore. I was happier with that. But
very much.
But that was one thing. It's like, wait a minute, go to your next read.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, Beckham, Landry, okay, I got to start running.
Right. So. It seems like something clicked for him after maybe like the first series or two.
Yeah, after that, it was almost like after that sack.
Yes. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's fired up and he's ready to go, and all of a sudden he started finding receivers like he did last year.
Right.
And
it was a great it was an impressive turnaround.
Right.
And I'm excited. Now, Monday, just to let everybody know,
Here we go again.
We have another primetime Browns game here on 3 News.
Primetime home of the Cleveland Browns is here on 3. Sunday nights, Monday nights, we got your back. And Front Row is actually going to take a back seat to the pregame huddle.
I see what you did there.
I'm a writer by trade.
Yes.
So 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, we're going to do a pregame huddle with Jim Donovan, Nick Camino, Bud Shaw. They'll all be there with your analysis, your insights. everything you need to know to get you set for the game. We kick it over to, we take that ESPN feed right here on 3. You don't have to pay for the cable subscription. You can get it for free over the air. And we'll have that game for you starting at 8, and we'll just carry it all the way through the duration. And then you can see what's next with our show after the news afterward.
Yeah, hopefully after another Browns win. This will be a tough one again.
This is exciting.
Win on the West Coast. Then you got to come back and play Seattle on the following Sunday. But then you got the bye. So it's going to start to kind of tighten up here in the next you have a lot of football coming up here in the next 2 weeks or so. And speaking of football, before I get out of here, our WKYC.com high school football game of the week, remember, tomorrow night at Lutheran West. It'll be Berkshire at Lutheran West. Our friends from Burton.
Wow, Burton, that's Mark Nolan country.
That is Mark Nolan country.
Ooh.
Berkshire will be out in Rocky River. Berkshire at Lutheran West beat out such heavyweights as Menor and Solon and Bedford and Maple Heights.
I remember hearing Tyler Carey talking about that in the newsroom, how he was surprised how Menor wasn't getting the votes. That's Channel 3 is a Menor. We're a stronghold in Menor.
We're a stronghold in Lake County, but not this week. So, but I'm excited. First time I've gotten a chance to call these two teams. Playoff implications for both teams. So
variety is the spice of life.
Variety is the spice of life. I love it. So about 6:50 will be our start time here. Facebook Live, YouTube, WKYC.com, and on that 3 News app. My friend, as always, I appreciate you stepping in. And
pleasure, as always.
And remind you, the Donovan and Dino show is presented by Master Pizza. Download that app, get those pizza points, because it's all about Master Pizza.
Taste above all.
For Vince Fratiani, in for Jimmy, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching Donovan and Dino here on 3 News, Facebook Live, and also on YouTube.
Boom. Excellent. That was a fun one.
That was fun.